The room is silent. Fluorescent lights hum overhead. Two men sit across from each other motionless. One is in control, the other thinks he is. On the surface, this looks like a conversation. But what's really happening is a game of psychological chess. The agent watches carefully. A flicker in the left eyebrow, a half-second delay before the answer, a micro twitch in the jaw. Just like that, the lie is exposed. This is what it means to see beyond words, to listen with your eyes and hear the truth before it's spoken. This video will unveil how to read people like a spy. Welcome to the art of decoding micro-expressions, body language, and emotional tells. A skill once reserved for intelligence agents, interrogators, and elite psychologists. Now, it's yours. Chapter 1. The First Rule of Human Observation. If you want to read people like a spy, you must internalize one rule before all others. People leak more information non-verbally than they do through words. Most individuals focus on what someone is saying, but they completely miss how it's being said. The human face, voice, posture, and even breathing rate give away internal emotional states long before a sentence is formed. Spies, interrogators, and elite negotiators learn to scan for these subtle cues automatically. But anyone can train themselves to observe more effectively. Start by slowing down your attention. When someone speaks, don't rush to respond. Instead, watch their face and body with relaxed focus. Where do their eyes go when they're speaking? Are they touching their face, fidgeting, or hiding their hands? The key is to develop baseline awareness, knowing how someone behaves when they're calm and neutral. Once you know their default, any deviation becomes significant. Does their voice crack when discussing a certain topic? Do they blink more when lying? Those subtle changes when compared to their baseline are red flags. In the workplace, for example, let's say a colleague says they're totally fine with your new promotion, but you notice a tight smile, slight shoulder shrug, and avoidance of eye contact. That cluster of behaviors doesn't match the words. Something's off. In a relationship, your partner may insist they're not upset, yet their arms are crossed, their tone is colder than usual, and they suddenly have less to say. That's the body doing the talking. In politics, debates often show micro moments of fear, contempt, or anger, fleeting expressions that appear in under half a second. Catching one can change your entire perception of authenticity. The first rule is simple. Always listen with your eyes first. The body never lies for long. Chapter 2. Microexpressions. Reading emotions in 1/25th of a second. Microexpressions are brief, involuntary facial expressions that flash across a person's face in less than half a second. They happen when someone tries to conceal an emotion, or when an emotion is so strong it bursts through for just a moment. These expressions are universal across cultures and can reveal anger, disgust, fear, happiness, surprise, sadness, and contempt, even when someone is trying to hide them. Learning to recognize micro-expressions gives you an unfair advantage in any interaction. Most people miss them because they're too fast. But with focused practice, you can train yourself to spot them in real time. The trick is not to stare too hard, but to watch loosely, like you're scanning without fixating. Imagine a political leader denies being angry about a scandal, but while saying it, his upper lip curls slightly, revealing a split-second flash of disgust. That's a micro-expression, and it tells a deeper truth than his statement. In the workplace, your boss might agree to your proposal with a polite nod, but a flash of fear crosses their face before they respond. That tells you they have doubts, even if they're hiding them. In relationships, your partner might say, "I'm happy for you." But as they say it, you spot a tiny flash of contempt, a sneer, or narrowing of the eyes. That moment speaks louder than the words. Micro-expressions are powerful because they're honest. They bypass the conscious mind. By learning to detect them, you can tell when someone is lying, when they're uncomfortable, and when they're truly sincere. Start by watching interviews on mute, especially moments of high pressure. Pause and replay. Notice flashes of emotion that don't match the words. Over time, your ability to decode truth from lies will become automatic. Chapter 3. Eye Contact, the Window and the Weapon. The eyes are one of the most revealing features of the human face. They don't just show where attention is focused, they also betray anxiety, confidence, aggression, or deceit. In espionage training, eye behaviour is studied intensely because it can't be easily controlled under pressure. Let's begin with direct eye contact. It can signal confidence, honesty, or dominance. But too much of it, especially if unblinking or intense, can indicate aggression or manipulation. On the flip side, a lack of eye contact doesn't always mean someone is lying. Sometimes it signals submission, nervousness, or social discomfort. When someone breaks eye contact by looking down, it often means shame, guilt, or sadness. Looking up to the left can indicate trying to recall information, true memory access. Up to the right might signal invention or fabrication. These eye directions are not absolute, but when used in context, they're powerful tools for pattern recognition. In romantic relationships, shifting eye contact patterns can signal emotional withdrawal. If your partner used to hold eye contact while talking and now looks away quickly or avoids your gaze altogether, something's changed beneath the surface. In politics or public speaking, when a speaker looks slightly above the audience's heads instead of at their eyes, it can indicate detachment. They're delivering lines, not connecting. In work environments, imagine someone nodding during a meeting while constantly glancing sideways or blinking rapidly. That blinking, more than 20 times per minute, suggests cognitive overload or stress. If their pupils dilate during discussion, it may indicate emotional interest, excitement, or attraction. Pupil dilation, by the way, is an involuntary response. We can't fake it. If someone's eyes widen while discussing a project, it may show genuine curiosity. If they narrow or shift rapidly, it could signal skepticism or an internal decision not to trust you. To read eyes effectively, observe over time. The patterns matter more than any isolated moment. Chapter 4. The Mouth Microtensions and Masking Emotion. People often think of the mouth as only used for speech, but its shape, movement, and tension levels are crucial nonverbal indicators. The lips are expressive muscles that react to emotion even before a person speaks. And just like the eyes, they can betray someone's intent in subtle yet profound ways. A tight-lipped smile, for instance, where the lips are stretched but don't part, often signals concealed discomfort or polite masking. It's the type of smile we use when we want to seem agreeable but don't truly feel it. Compare that to a Duchenne smile, a real smile, where the corners of the mouth rise and the eyes crinkle. If the eyes aren't engaged, the smile is likely fake. Lip biting or lip pressing is a classic self-soothing behavior. It shows the person is nervous, uncertain, or suppressing emotion. When someone bites their bottom lip during a conversation, they're either holding back words or hiding anxiety. Downturned corners of the mouth signal sadness or disapproval. In relationships, you might see this when someone pretends to be okay but feels hurt. You ask, "Are you all right?" And they smile quickly, but the mouth corners drop right after. It's the truth trying to escape. In negotiations or debates, people often cover their mouths briefly when lying, either by touching their lips, coughing into their hand, or making a dismissive motion. These are subconscious attempts to block the lie. Is the body rejecting what the mouth is saying? A sneer, lifting one side of the mouth, is a common marker of contempt. This is one of the most toxic emotions in communication. Contempt means I'm better than you, and when shown regularly in relationships or workplaces, it predicts long-term conflict. To read the mouth effectively, don't just listen for what's said, watch for what's almost said, then hidden. The mouth is often the last line of emotional defense before the truth escapes. Chapter 5. Hands and Gestures. The Echoes of the Mind. Hands are often more honest than the face. That's because we tend to focus our conscious control on facial expressions, leaving the hands to act freely. But in spycraft, hands are scrutinized just as closely, sometimes more. They reveal intentions, attitudes, and confidence levels with striking clarity. Open palms facing upward signal honesty, openness, and a lack of threat. When someone explains something with their hands open and fingers relaxed, they're usually not trying to deceive. In contrast, clenched fists, hidden hands like in pockets, or hands behind the back suggest control, nervousness, or aggression. In the workplace, a manager who gestures with open hands while explaining a vision inspires trust. But if their hands stay behind their back, it may signal that they're hiding something or asserting quiet dominance. It makes others wonder what they're concealing. Fidgeting, tapping, or wringing hands are signs of discomfort or cognitive overload. If someone constantly adjusts their watch, touches their ring, or taps their fingers during a conversation, they're anxious, even if their words are calm. In romantic relationships, when someone holds your hand but their fingers remain limp or motionless, it could suggest emotional distance. Genuine affection comes with warmth and micro-movements, gentle squeezes or mirrored hand placement. A robotic, disengaged grip says more than silence ever could. Politicians often use the steeple gesture, fingertips pressed together like a triangle. This signals confidence and control. If used sparingly, it exudes authority, but overused, it feels arrogant or manipulative. Hand-chopping motions, where the palm slices down vertically, are attempts to assert dominance or end a discussion. Gestures that are exaggerated or delayed can also signal lying. When someone speaks first and gestures second out of sync, it may mean they're rehearsing or fabricating. Truthful people tend to gesture as they speak in fluid synchrony. To read gestures, compare what you see to what's being said. Are they in harmony or contradiction? The hands often echo the mind's truth. Chapter 6. Posture, Reading Status, Confidence and Resistance. Posture is posture, but it's also position. And in power dynamics, how someone holds their body reflects how they feel about themselves, you, and the situation at hand. A spy knows that posture isn't just physical, it's psychological architecture. Confident people take up space. They sit upright, shoulders relaxed but wide, feet planted firmly. Their body flows with the room, not against it. In contrast, uncertain individuals shrink. They hunch forward, cross their arms, and tuck their legs. This is the body's natural way of protecting itself from perceived threat. In the workplace, you might notice a colleague leaning back with arms spread over the back of the chair in meetings. That's a dominant posture, signaling comfort and territorial control. Meanwhile, a junior team member might sit with their arms crossed tightly across their chest, legs crossed away from the group. That posture shows discomfort or disapproval, even if they're verbally agreeable. In relationships, posture reveals emotional closeness or distance. A partner sitting turned slightly away from you, with legs crossed in the opposite direction, is creating psychological distance. If their arms are crossed and shoulders are raised, they may be defensive, even if they're saying, "I'm fine." In political debates, watch how candidates stand. The one who takes the centre, plants their feet shoulder-width apart and gestures with measured control is usually perceived as the stronger figure, even before they speak. Posture also changes mid-conversation. If someone begins relaxed but gradually leans away, crosses their legs or arms, or shifts toward the exit, it signals withdrawal or disagreement. The conversation has lost their trust or interest. To decode posture, track the changes over time and across topics. The body always tries to align with comfort. When it doesn't, you've uncovered hidden resistance. Chapter 7. tone of voice, hearing the truth beneath the words. Words carry meaning, but tone carries intention. In spycraft and psychology alike, tone of voice is one of the most potent tools for decoding emotional state, confidence, and deception. It's not just what someone says, it's how they say it. A confident tone is steady, rich, and paced. It doesn't rush. It carries the natural cadence of someone who believes what they're saying. When someone speaks too quickly, stumbles over words, or raises their pitch unexpectedly, it often reflects nervousness, guilt, or a need to manipulate. In relationships, someone who says "I'm fine" with a flat, clip tone likely isn't. That monotone delivery often reveals emotional shutdown or repressed anger. On the other hand, when someone speaks with rising intonation, like a question, it can suggest insecurity or a plea for reassurance. "You believe me, right?" In workplace settings, tone affects authority. A team leader who ends statements with upward inflection, "We'll try to finish this today," undermines their own leadership. Compare that to a calm, downward-ending tone, "We'll finish this today." That subtle shift changes the entire room's perception. Politicians and public speakers are trained to use varied pitch and controlled pauses. A lower tone conveys authority and calmness. High-pitched bursts, on the other hand, can sound emotional or unstable. Watch how seasoned leaders drop their pitch when making serious statements. They're anchoring trust and control. A shaky voice, throat clearing, or frequent swallowing can all indicate inner turmoil. If a person suddenly shifts tone mid-conversation, perhaps growing louder or softer for no clear reason, it's a red flag. Something inside them has shifted. To decode tone, listen for inconsistencies between the voice and the message. "I'm excited to be here," delivered in a bored, hollow tone, says everything you need to know. Train yourself to hear the message beneath the message. Chapter 8. Verbal pacing and mirroring aligning for access. One of the most subtle but effective techniques in social influence is verbal mirroring, the act of matching someone's speaking style, rhythm, or choice of words. Spies, therapists, and con artists all use this to build unconscious rapport. Because when someone feels you're like them, they're more likely to trust and obey you. Start with pacing. When you match someone's rate of speech and volume, you create a kind of psychological synchronization. If someone is speaking softly and slowly, and you respond with loud, rapid speech, you break rapport. But if you adjust to their rhythm, soften your tone, slow your tempo, they feel understood, even without knowing why. This is especially powerful in negotiations. If a client speaks in short factual bursts, don't flood them with emotional language. Instead, mirror their brevity. If they use specific phrases repeatedly, like "let's be realistic," incorporate that language into your own response. This creates familiarity and makes them more receptive. In romantic relationships, mirroring can diffuse tension. If your partner is speaking with quiet frustration, yelling won't bridge the gap. But by lowering your own voice and gently reflecting their emotions, "I hear that you're overwhelmed," you de-escalate the conflict and re-establish connection. Politically, mirroring is often used in interviews and debates. When a candidate subtly repeats a phrase the opponent used, especially if it resonates with the audience, they hijack its emotional power. Like "my colleague said, but here's what really matters." It sounds collaborative, but reframes the narrative in their favour. Verbal mirroring also works in small ways, repeating keywords, matching emotional tone, echoing values. If someone says, "I just want honesty," and you reply, "Honesty is key," you create subconscious alignment. It's persuasive without pressure. Used ethically, verbal pacing and mirroring builds bridges. Used manipulatively, it can bypass critical thinking. But either way, it's one of the most underused tools for control. Chapter 9. Microexpressions, the glitches in the mask. Microexpressions are involuntary facial expressions that flash across the face in less than half a second. They reveal genuine emotion before the brain has time to filter it. For a spy, or anyone seeking psychological advantage, these are golden. They are the truth trying to escape. There are 7 universal microexpressions: happiness, sadness, anger, fear, surprise, disgust, and contempt. Each has a distinct look. The key is knowing what to watch for. Contempt shows up as a one-sided lip raise. It's subtle but telling. If someone says they respect you, but their mouth curls into that asymmetric smirk, believe the face, not the words. Disgust appears when the nose wrinkles and upper lip lifts. Fear causes widened eyes, raised eyebrows, and tense lips. If you ask a question and catch a flicker of fear on their face, just for a split second, it may indicate they're hiding something. In workplace interviews or negotiations, if a candidate momentarily shows disgust while discussing their previous employer, but quickly recovers with a smile, you've just seen a leak, an unfiltered emotion escaping. That tells you more than 5 polished answers ever could. In romantic contexts, micro-expressions often emerge during conflict. If you express hurt and your partner's eyes flash with contempt or disgust before they respond calmly, pay attention. That instant reaction reveals deeper emotional currents. Politically, micro-expressions can betray insincerity. A lead who smiles at a press conference but flashes anger or fear during difficult questions is giving you a glimpse behind the mask. Experts often pause footage to catch these slips, and they rarely lie. To spot micro-expressions, practice watching people when they are under stress or surprise. Emotions surface faster than control. Over time, you'll train your eyes to notice what others miss, and that knowledge is power. Chapter 10. Establishing a baseline, knowing what's normal. Before you can spot deception or discomfort, you need to understand what normal looks like. This is the principle of baselining, observing someone's typical behavior in non-threatening contexts so you can detect meaningful deviations later. Everyone has their own natural rhythm: speech pace, gestures, posture, eye movement. A person who naturally speaks quickly and looks around often might seem anxious to the untrained eye, but that may just be their normal. The trick is to observe them when they are relaxed. In the workplace, baselining is useful in meetings and casual conversations. Watch how a colleague behaves when nothing's at stake. How they sit, speak, gesture. Later, if they suddenly become more still or start blinking excessively during a performance review, you know something has shifted. In relationships, this is invaluable. If your partner usually makes direct eye contact but starts avoiding your gaze during certain conversations, that's not a random act. It's a deviation. The same goes for speech. Someone who normally rambles but suddenly grows quiet is broadcasting tension or internal conflict. In politics and leadership, baselines help assess sincerity. A leader who always gestures with their hands may seem calm, but if they stop during a critical question, that freeze may signal internal alarm. Spotting that shift gives you insight into what rattles them. Baseline detection is also essential in lie detection. A lie isn't always about the presence of a red flag, it's about a break in pattern. A person who smiles while talking but suddenly goes neutral after a question may not be reacting to the question itself, but what it implies. To establish a baseline, observe people when they are not being challenged. Small talk, greetings, casual topics. Take mental notes. Then, when the stakes rise, scan for shifts. Deviations are clues. The body always leaks the truth. It's just waiting for someone to notice. Chapter 11. Behavioural clusters. Patterns. Matter more than isolated cues. In the world of human behaviour analysis, no single action is definitive. A scratch of the nose, averted eyes, or a shrug can all mean different things depending on context. That's why professionals don't rely on isolated cues. They look for clusters of behaviour. A behavioural cluster is a group of two or more signals that occur together and reinforce a common emotional state. For example, crossing arms might suggest defensiveness, but if it's paired with tightened lips, leaning back, and minimal eye contact, the likelihood of discomfort or rejection rises significantly. In the workplace, imagine someone asked to take responsibility for a project that went wrong. If they smile nervously, cross their arms, glance away, and shift in their seat all within a few seconds, you're seeing a defensive cluster, an attempt to protect themselves from blame. In relationships, let's say you ask your partner if something is bothering them. They say no, but they shake their head slowly, sigh, and avoid your eyes. Each signal alone might be subtle, but together they form a strong emotional pattern that contradicts their words. That's your real answer. In politics, consider a candidate answering a difficult question. If their voice tightens, they fidget with a pen, and their facial expression flattens all at once, you're witnessing internal stress, likely more than the answer reveals. Analysts often replay footage frame by frame to catch these moments. The key is congruency. When verbal and non-verbal signals align, it usually indicates honesty. When they clash, especially in a tight cluster, it often points to deception, stress, or hidden emotion. So when analysing someone, don't obsess over one gesture. Instead, observe what happens in a 3-5 second window after a trigger or question. Do multiple behaviours support each other? Are they in sync with the words being said? That's how spies read truth in motion. Chapter 12. Eye Contact, the Language of Power and Intent. Eye contact is one of the most powerful non-verbal cues in human communication. It signals confidence, connection, dominance, discomfort, deception, or vulnerability. But interpreting it correctly requires nuance. Direct eye contact typically signals engagement and confidence. In a leadership context, maintaining eye contact while speaking reinforces authority. But too much can feel aggressive or controlling. Think of a boss who stares down an employee during a reprimand. The message isn't connection, it's dominance. In relationships, sustained eye contact often conveys intimacy and trust. Lovers hold eye contact longer than strangers or friends. But when someone who usually connects this way suddenly looks away, especially during emotional topics, it may reveal withdrawal or concealment. In politics, eye contact is choreographed. Candidates look into the camera to connect with viewers. When answering hard questions, evasive eye movement, glancing down or to the side, can signal discomfort. But be careful not to misread this. Some people naturally avert their gaze when thinking or recalling. Interestingly, liars may overcompensate. Because people believe eye contact signals truthfulness, deceptive individuals may hold gaze too intensely to appear sincere. This can come off as rehearsed or unnatural, another clue for the trained observer. There's also the matter of blinking. High blink rate during stress, or sudden changes in blink frequency, often reveal internal anxiety. Someone blinking rapidly after a pointed question might be struggling to maintain composure. Cultural differences also matter. In some cultures, prolonged eye contact is seen as respectful. In others, it's viewed as aggressive. Always consider baseline and cultural norms before interpreting gaze behaviour. Ultimately, eye contact is about congruence. Does the look match the moment? Is it natural or forced? Is it fleeting when you'd expect connection, or uncomfortably fixed when you'd expect ease? The truth, once again, lives in these details. Chapter 13. Body Orientation, Where Attention Truly Lies. Body orientation is one of the most instinctive but overlooked cues in human interaction. When someone's torso, feet, or shoulders are directed toward you, they are mentally and emotionally engaged. When those same body parts turn away, even subtly, it often signals discomfort, avoidance, or disengagement. In the workplace, this is crucial during meetings or negotiations. A colleague may be smiling and nodding in agreement, But if their feet point toward the door or their torso shifts slightly away from the table, they're not truly with you. Their body is showing their desire to leave or mentally disconnect. During high-stakes conversations, read which way the body leans. It tells you where their loyalty or interest really lies. In relationships, orientation speaks louder than words. During an argument, someone who says they're listening but sits with their torso angled away is likely emotionally retreating. Even in casual conversations, couples who consistently face each other tend to be more attuned than those who sit side by side but don't turn in. Orientation communicates investment without a single word. In politics, body orientation can signal power plays. During debates or summits, a leader who keeps their chest squared to an opponent is showing dominance or confidence. But a subtle turn of the hips or shift of the shoulders can betray discomfort. It's not just about posture, it's about direction. The body always points toward what it values and away from what it avoids. When reading people, ask, what are they facing? That answer often tells you more than what they're saying. Chapter 14. Hand Gestures, Hidden Tells and Power Plays. The hands are natural amplifiers of thought. They reveal tension, honesty, authority, and deception, often before the mouth catches up. While people can control their face, the hands are harder to suppress, especially under stress. In the workplace, a person pitching a project might claim confidence, but if the hands disappear under the table, clench repeatedly, or rub against one another, it tells a different story. These are self-soothing behaviours, common when someone feels exposed or uncertain. In contrast, expansive, slow hand movements signal comfort and control. Palms facing upward suggest openness. Palms downward, particularly in a meeting, can assert dominance, intentionally or not. In romantic situations, hands betray emotional temperature. Is your partner touching their own wrist, neck, or fingers while saying everything's fine? These unconscious gestures are signs of inner conflict. Touching objects repeatedly or fidgeting during important talks may signal suppressed stress or dishonesty. And physical touch, like resting a hand on yours, often indicates sincerity or connection. In politics, hand gestures are powerful tools. Leaders who gesticulate with confidence build trust, but repetitive or exaggerated gestures can undermine credibility, especially if not in sync with their words. Watch for hands disappearing into pockets during tough questions. That's not casual, that's concealment. To use hand gestures for control, keep them visible, purposeful, and measured, and to read others, pay attention when their hands contradict their message. Nervous hands speak volumes. Chapter 15. Tone of Voice, the Hidden Frequency of Truth. The way someone speaks often reveals more than what they say. Tone of voice includes pitch, pace, volume, and inflection, all of which can betray a person's emotional state, regardless of their words. In the workplace, someone might say, "I'm happy to take this on," but if the pace is rushed, the tone flat, or the pitch strained, the statement becomes doubtful. A leader's slow, measured tone often commands more respect than rapid, anxious delivery. Speaking too fast or too softly might show nerves or lack of conviction, even if the content is solid. In romantic relationships, tone changes are emotionally charged. A slight tremble in the voice, a lowered volume, or a sudden rise in pitch can reveal sadness, anger, or anxiety. "I don't care," said in a deadpan voice, can indicate resignation, while the same phrase spoken sharply suggests frustration. Tone becomes the bridge between emotion and language. In politics, trained orators know how to use tone for persuasion, but even the most disciplined speakers falter under pressure. Rising pitch during a rebuttal, stammering, or a clipped rhythm often signals inner tension. Audiences instinctively pick up on this and may lose trust without realizing why. When reading tone, always compare it to baseline. Does the person usually speak clearly and evenly? A sudden change in pitch, rhythm, or hesitation can indicate deception, discomfort, or excitement. To wield power through tone, practice conscious modulation. Slow down, pause with purpose, and lower your pitch to project confidence. Chapter 16. Proxemics, the power of personal space. Proxemics is the study of how humans use space. And in reading people, it's one of the most revealing yet silent indicators of intent, trust, or threat. Every person has an invisible perimeter around them. When someone allows you into their intimate zone, they trust you. When they step back, they're creating emotional or psychological distance. In the workplace, this plays out in team dynamics. If a coworker consistently places themselves at a distance during meetings or leans away when you speak, it may suggest discomfort or distrust, even if they smile or nod. On the flip side, a colleague who leans in, sits closely, or places objects near yours is signaling alliance and rapport. In relationships, space is deeply personal. If a partner begins to subtly increase the physical distance between you, on the couch, in bed, or while walking, it may signal growing emotional distance. During arguments, the person who stands their ground or moves closer may be seeking resolution, while the one who backs away could be shutting down. Even during silent moments, how close someone chooses to be speaks volumes. In politics, proxemics is used strategically. A leader might step into someone's space to assert dominance or confidence. Others may shrink or hold ground. Watch how people arrange themselves on stage or in meetings. Those who claim space project power. Those who are squeezed to the edges are often being sidelined. To read people, observe how they react when space is adjusted. Move slightly closer during a conversation. Do they stay put or retreat? That reaction tells you where you stand, far more honestly than their words ever could. Chapter 17. Blink rate. Windows to the mind under pressure. Blinking is largely involuntary, but its frequency reveals a great deal about a person's mental and emotional state. A steady, normal blink rate, around 15-20 times per minute, signals calm and baseline behavior. A sudden spike or decrease can indicate stress, deception, or intense focus. In the workplace, high-stress presentations often cause blinking to accelerate, especially during tough questions or moments of uncertainty. If someone's blink rate jumps when asked to clarify a point, it could signal they're fabricating under pressure or mentally rehearsing a response. Conversely, very slow blinking may suggest calculated control or deep focus. In relationships, blinking changes can reveal underlying emotions. During a vulnerable conversation, if your partner starts blinking rapidly, it may show inner conflict, anxiety, or evasion. On the other hand, very little blinking during moments of tension can indicate emotional withdrawal or even contempt. In politics, media trainers advise speakers to maintain steady eye contact and blink normally. But under real scrutiny, like during a tough interview or debate, blink rate often betrays nervousness. Rapid blinking while stating a firm stance can signal a lack of conviction. Excessively slow blinking while listening may convey disdain or disbelief. To use blink rate as a tool, first establish a person's baseline during calm conversation. Then look for deviations during pressure. Sudden increases in blinking often indicate discomfort or dishonesty. If you're the one being observed, controlling your own blink rate, keeping it calm and deliberate, can project composure and confidence even under fire. Chapter 18. Calibrating the Baseline, the foundation of every read. No behaviour is meaningful without a baseline. Everyone has quirks. Some speak quickly, some fidget, others avoid eye contact naturally. To read intent, you must first observe someone when they are calm, relaxed, and under no pressure. That becomes their personal norm. Deviations from that norm are where truth hides. In the workplace, someone might always drum their fingers or avoid eye contact, but if, During a key meeting, they suddenly stop moving and speak slower. That shift is what matters. You're not looking for what they do, but what they do differently. Calibrating their baseline lets you detect when stress, excitement, or deception enters the room. In relationships, this is vital. A partner might always be emotionally reserved. But if one day they seem particularly attentive or unusually cold, that change, no matter how small, is significant. Many misinterpret behaviours because they assume universal norms, but everyone has their own. Spies understand this intuitively. They study the baseline first, always. In politics, leaders are trained to perform, but even rehearsed figures revert to baseline behaviours when off script. Watch how a candidate behaves when greeting someone versus when cornered on policy. Do their hands, eyes, or tone shift? A deviation from baseline is more revealing than any rehearsed line. Calibrating a person's baseline is your foundation. Observe them in low-stakes settings, listen to their casual tone, note their normal pace, gestures, blink rate, posture. Then, during critical moments, you'll see clearly what most miss: the shift. That's where intent lives. That's where spies begin. Chapter 19. Breathing Patterns, the Rhythm of Internal States. Breathing is the most primal signal of a person's inner world. Unlike speech or facial expressions, it is nearly impossible to fully control under emotional stress. Rapid, shallow breathing often signals anxiety, nervousness, or deception. Deep, slow breaths suggest calmness, control, or readiness. In the workplace, pay attention to how someone breathes before presenting or speaking up. A sudden intake of breath, followed by a pause, might indicate they're about to lie, or at least say something carefully constructed. During confrontations, shallow upper chest breathing suggests defensiveness or fear. A person who breathes from their diaphragm, on the other hand, tends to project confidence and composure. In relationships, breathing changes are powerful indicators of emotional shifts. During a serious talk, if your partner's breathing becomes irregular, either holding their breath, sighing frequently, or exhaling sharply, they're emotionally charged. It could be guilt, sadness, or unspoken tension. On the flip side, synchronized breathing, where two people unconsciously match pace, is a strong sign of connection and attunement. In politics or media appearances, trained speakers learn to control their breath to manage nerves and slow their speech. But even the best trained public figures give themselves away. Watch closely. During stressful questioning or when dodging a topic, a politician's breath may quicken, their shoulders rising subtly. It's a crack in the performance. To read people, observe their breathing at rest and under stress. Ask a question and quietly watch. Do they inhale sharply, exhale forcefully, hold their breath? These moments are micro windows into the truth. And if you want to control a room, steady your own breathing first. Calm breath projects unshakable authority. Chapter 20. Eye contact, the fine line between dominance and deceit. Eye contact is a powerful tool and a double-edged sword. Too little suggests evasion or submission. Too much, and it can feel threatening or artificial. True control comes from mastering the balance, holding eye contact when it matters, breaking it when needed, and reading how others do the same. In the workplace, people trying to assert dominance often overcompensate by staring. But real authority is shown through calm, steady eye contact with natural breaks. If someone avoids your gaze during a negotiation, they may be uncertain or hiding something. But if they hold it too intensely, they may be bluffing or trying to intimidate. In romantic relationships, eye contact reveals connection. Prolonged, relaxed gazes during conversations suggest intimacy and trust. But darting eyes, blinking during important topics, or looking down while speaking can signal dishonesty, discomfort, or emotional withdrawal. A partner may say they're fine, but if their eyes flick away, the truth often lies in the movement. In politics, eye contact is choreography. Leaders use it to connect with audiences, intimidate rivals, or signal sincerity. But it's also where deception leaks out. When answering tough questions, do their eyes shift sideways, break contact, or fixate too long? That friction between intention and expression often reveals more than the answer itself. Reading eye contact isn't about counting seconds, it's about noticing how the eyes behave under pressure. Are they soft or hard, fixed or flickering? The eyes are the most emotionally charged part of the body, and for those who know how to watch, they rarely lie. Chapter 21. Microexpressions. The flicker of the unconscious. Microexpressions are fleeting facial movements that occur in a fraction of a second. They reveal a person's true emotions before they have time to suppress or mask them. These expressions are involuntary, emerging when feelings leak through a carefully maintained exterior. In the workplace, imagine asking a colleague whether they're okay with a decision. They smile and nod, but for a split second their eyebrows knit together, or the corners of their mouth dip. That moment, less than half a second, is a micro-expression of frustration or disagreement. Catching it gives you insight they didn't intend to reveal. In relationships, micro-expressions are especially revealing. A brief flash of disgust during a conversation about boundaries, a split-second smirk when discussing past issues, a flash of fear in the eyes when a sensitive topic is raised. These micro-cues often contradict the spoken word, and that contradiction is your clue. In politics, handlers train leaders to maintain facial control, but micro-expressions still slip out, particularly when they're caught off guard. Watch interviews closely, a twitch of contempt when asked about an opponent, a momentary eye roll or tightening of the lips. These aren't accidents, they're emotional leaks that reveal the speaker's real feelings. To use micro-expressions effectively, slow down your perception. Watch the face carefully after emotionally charged questions or statements. Learn the universal signs: anger, sadness, fear, contempt, surprise, disgust, and happiness, and practice spotting their fleeting forms. The key to power isn't in hearing what people say, it's in catching what they almost didn't show. Chapter 22. Speech Pattern Shifts. Verbal Tells of Internal Change. A person's tone, pace, and choice of words reveal far more than the content of what they're saying. Sudden shifts in speech patterns, especially in response to direct questions, are often unconscious indicators of stress, deception, or discomfort. In the workplace, during meetings or performance reviews, listen closely to changes in how someone talks. Do they suddenly start using overly formal language when challenged? Are they using filler words like honestly, to be frank, or let me be clear? These verbal add-ons often precede dishonesty or an attempt to persuade rather than inform. If someone who typically speaks directly suddenly becomes evasive or verbose, there's something they don't want to say. In romantic relationships, people's tone and pacing shift when they're hiding something. A partner might start answering questions with more detail than necessary, or speak faster to rush through uncomfortable topics. Conversely, unusually slow, hesitant speech can signal internal conflict. These moments of mismatch between content and delivery are your clues. In politics, well-trained figures aim for consistent delivery, but under pressure, their speech betrays them. A confident speaker might suddenly insert or repeat phrases, or change their sentence structure midstream. These shifts, especially when discussing scandals or difficult policies, often suggest cognitive dissonance or the effort to conceal. Pay attention not only to what's being said, but how it's being said. Is the tone defensive? Is the language overly vague or suspiciously specific? Is the speaker's rhythm steady or faltering? These are not just quirks, they're signals. Learn to listen with a second layer of attention and you'll hear far more than most. Chapter 23. Body Orientation. Who we face reveals who we favour. Humans instinctively orient their bodies toward what they care about. Where someone points their feet, shoulders or torso often reveals their true priorities, whether they say it out loud or not. In the workplace, body orientation can uncover power dynamics. If a manager addresses the group but angles their body toward one colleague more than the others, that person may hold unseen influence. In one-on-one conversations, a co-worker whose feet are pointed toward the door may be looking for an exit, literally and emotionally. Someone who keeps their body open and aligned with yours is engaged. One who subtly shifts away is likely disengaged or resistant. In romantic relationships, subtle shifts in orientation are highly telling. A partner who speaks while their body remains facing away, like talking over their shoulder, may be emotionally distancing. In contrast, full alignment, torso and legs facing you, is a subconscious sign of presence and investment. During arguments, notice whether your partner leans in or angles away. It often tells you more than their words. In politics, watch where leaders face when on stage with others. Do they pivot toward allies or away from opponents? During debates, a speaker may respond verbally to one person, but their body may remain directed at another, revealing where their psychological energy lies. Cameras may not always catch it, but trained observers see it instantly. Reading body orientation requires mindfulness. Is the person's posture congruent with their claimed attention? Or are they signalling withdrawal, discomfort, or deference? A slight angle away can be a red flag. A full turn toward can be a sign of trust or aggression, depending on the context. Learn the angles, and you'll always know who's aligned with whom. Chapter 24. Adaptation and Mimicry. Who changes for whom? Humans unconsciously adapt to those they seek approval from. This mimicry of tone, posture, or even breathing is a sign of deference or connection, but it can also be a way to assert control. In the workplace, watch who mirrors whom. If a subordinate starts echoing their manager's body language or expressions, it often indicates submission or alignment. But if the reverse happens, if a leader unconsciously matches a peer's style, it may signal insecurity or an unspoken power shift. When someone mimics your behavior, they're trying to build rapport. When they resist mimicking, it's a form of subtle defiance. In romantic relationships, mutual mimicry is often subconscious and healthy. Couples in sync will match each other's tone, lean in simultaneously, or adjust their pace when walking. But if one person consistently adapts while the other remains static, the imbalance can be revealing. The one who changes is often the one seeking closeness, approval, or peace. The one who resists may feel more secure or more detached. In politics, mimicry is both a persuasion tactic and a sign of alliance. Watch how politicians mirror the speaking style or tone of an interviewer or opponent. Subtle mirroring can be used to gain favour, but if a public figure refuses to adjust, it may be a power play, establishing dominance by holding their own rhythm and space. Track who adapts and who doesn't. The one who shifts first often yields psychological ground, and the one who remains unmoved, that's the person in charge. Chapter 25. When signals conflict, what to trust most. One of the most powerful tools of a trained observer is recognizing incongruence. When someone's words say one thing but their body or tone says another. The average person hears what's said. The skilled reader sees what's meant. In the workplace, imagine a colleague says, "That's fine, let's move forward." But their jaws clenched and their hands are balled into fists. The verbal message is approval, the physical message is anger. In this conflict, believe the body. It always speaks first. In relationships, mixed signals cause endless confusion. A partner might say, "I'm happy with how things are," but avoid eye contact and speak with a tight, clipped tone. When verbal and nonverbal cues clash, It's not miscommunication, it's self-protection. They may be afraid of confrontation, afraid of loss, or afraid of their own feelings, but the body never lies for long. In politics, incongruence often reveals the moments where strategy cracks. A leader might speak of empathy but smile smugly, or speak of strength but visibly flinch when challenged. These fractures between posture and speech are gold for the trained observer. They expose the tension between image and truth. Always trust the channel that is least under conscious control. The body, the face, the voice's tone, words are curated, but muscle tension, microexpressions, and vocal pitch shifts are spontaneous. When the message doesn't align across all three, verbal, vocal, and visual, dig deeper. That's where the real story lies. These are the tools to read people like a spy, not with mind games, but with presence, precision, and pattern recognition. The world speaks in gestures, silences, glances, and subtle shifts. The truth is rarely shouted, it's whispered through tension, gaze, and breath. The skilled observer doesn't rush to conclusions. They collect signals, they match patterns, they learn to trust not the words, but the signs behind them. So whether you're navigating the boardroom, decoding the motives of a partner, or reading the unspoken strategies in politics, remember, human behavior is a language, and the more fluent you become, the more powerful your place in the world will be. If this guide helped you see the world a little more clearly, don't forget to support the channel. Leave a comment with your favorite insight, or the moment in your life where reading someone correctly changed everything. Share this with someone who moves through life unaware. And if you're ready to go deeper into power, psychology, and strategy, do subscribe. There's more coming. Until next time, observe closely and act precisely.